I'm with Martin Brennan, who's a volunteer here at the House of Hope in Bethlehem. Now, Martin, why did you come to the Holy Land to volunteer?
I first came across last year on holiday, and with my wife, who's been to a volunteer here before, and I came to have a look. And though I was on holiday, I got slightly involved with doing a few devotions and seeing the work. And then when I went home, I just had a heart to come back. I just thought, when God's working in your life in certain ways, you can't put a finger on it always, but I just felt this desire and calling really to come back to the House of Hope.
Yeah, you just felt God speaking to you?
That's right, yeah. I can't specifically say one verse or one time, but just gradually all the time working away in my heart and hearing messages and things, and I just felt it was right to come out here. So,
is it easy to become a volunteer here in Bethlehem?
I think it is easy. It depends what your heart is for voluntary, because I've seen some people who want to do voluntary work but also have a good life at the same time. And that's almost like being half committed to the work. I think if you're committed to the work, there's opening doors for you. But if you're really looking for an easy ride and something just to look around the place, I wouldn't advise it, because it's not fair on the ministry. Yeah. And you're not being true to yourself, really. So,
what do you actually do in the UK?
I'm an electrical draftsman. So I prepare wiring schematic diagrams for electrical systems.
So are you able to do that and bring out that skill that you have in the UK to here?
Not really, no. Because as soon as you say the word electrical, they think you're an electrician. Right. So every electrical problem in the house, they say, oh, great, you can fix it. And you go, no, there's a big difference between an electrical engineer and an electrician, but I'll try and help where I can and fix what I can, and what I can't, I can't. Yeah. So, but no, really, them skills don't transfer to this. So my only answer to that really is not really, no. Yeah.
So this is a big change to actually be working with disabled children.
Oh, it's a massive change, absolutely massive. I've never worked with disabled children before. Other than youth work in churches, I've never really worked with children before. My wife she works with special needs and autism. So I hear the dripping of what goes on, but it's been a massive eye-opener for me and very challenging for me, yeah.
I was going to ask, it's been very challenging?
Very challenging indeed. The very biggest challenge for me is that I hear back in the UK, they know the symptoms of the children, the diagnosis, the medication, and an understanding of the actual condition of each child. Here it's completely different. So if you ask a question, how old is that child? You maybe don't even get the answer how old the child is, but what mental age they are, what's the actual condition that they've got. Is it autism? Is it mental illness? Is it something else? And so you really are in this position of not quite knowing who you're dealing with, what you're dealing with. But I like to look at the child and think, you're a child. And I just want to help you wherever I can, in whatever way I can. So
that must make it difficult, because if you understood a little bit more about the child, you'd be able to sort of cater for his needs a bit better.
Absolutely. My desire is, and I've put this to them, to say, when a volunteer comes out, a big benefit would be, this is the condition, this is the mental age, maybe an assessment of the mental age, this is who they are. And then it help you adapt, and also help you do a little bit of study maybe online to say, what do the professionals say is the right way to do these things? So I think it would be a big benefit especially to volunteers, that they have a bit more understanding when they arrive, that they can look straight at the issue rather than spending so long trying to work it out, and then before you know it, you're spending time preparing to go home. So yeah.
Now this is a home for blind and mentally ill. What sort of things are you seeing here? What sort of disabilities?
Obviously there is the blind issue. We have 3 boys who are totally blind, 1 girl who's totally blind, and then we have men working in the workshop, 3 who are totally blind, 1 who's partially blind. I see them, how they move around the place, how they work, and it's very challenging at what their capabilities are. But I'm trying to understand their blind world, thinking, what's going on in there? Because you don't want to cross a barrier of saying what's going on in your blind world, but just trying to drip feed questions in, just to try and get an understanding of what it means to be blind, and then an understanding that maybe how you could help, but also appreciate, even admire how these people go about their lives on a day-to-day basis, yeah.
Yeah, you've got some of the blind people actually working in the factory, so in the woodwork factory, so is that inspiring as well?
Very inspiring. It's to see someone's dedication to their work, that speed is not... We always think speed is the essence, but to see someone just carefully, slowly, considerately feel, touch, and go about their business is challenging, it's inspiring. I've been chopping some wood on the bandsaw because I don't like to see the guys using bandsaws when they're blind, but one is willing to. But it's amazing how I look at it and see it as right. They feel it and see it as wrong. Yeah. And so that sense of feeling against that sense of sight, that's something that's really challenged me. And I see that in the spiritual realm as well. It's challenging, it's inspiring, and it's also making me think about our senses more, which are the most important in some ways. And it's a privilege to work alongside some of these guys. It really is. Yeah.
What sort of background have some of these people came from?
Predominantly Muslim backgrounds, predominantly poor backgrounds. The children I know more about. I've been to some of their homes. Some are what I would call hardline Muslims, more fanatical in a way, but not in a horrible way. Some are more liberal Muslims, but it's mainly a poor background. And when I first came, I thought, what can I do to improve their living conditions here? And because they're living like this. But then when you go to their homes, you think, wow, this is just paradise in a way for them because of the cleanliness, of the routine, of the food, of the clothes. And you you go, well, you've judged it instantly without seeing the big picture. So, yeah, mainly Muslims. I think there's only one family from a Christian background. But it challenges me why they want to send the children to a Christian home to come under the gospel, to come under the message of the Christian message. But they seem to trust that. They trust us. So, yeah, I find that quite challenging.
A lot of the disabled struggling with rejection.
I think they are. I don't fully understand that, but I think there is a taboo maybe in the culture that maybe the disabled children are seen as an embarrassment in a way, maybe even a curse from God, but take them words carefully, that why has God done this to us? And that seems to be a thing in the culture, that it's but it's also that if they're very poor and you've got a disabled child, they need to work every opportunity they can. So if that disabled child is hindering them going to work and earning money, what do they do with the disabled child? The option really isn't to stay at home and look after them. It's possibly to get the cheapest, best care you can while the parents can go out and work. So I don't fully understand all that, but there is a taboo, I think, in the culture about having disabled children in some way.
So do families sort of feel like that child might be a burden to the family?
Definitely. Well, it seems definitely to me. Yeah. I say definitely from my understanding. But yeah, they do seem to appear that way. I've seen some horrific cases on a different ministry where they were willing to keep their child in a cage in the home and go out to work, and that child is handcuffed or kept in a cage. And that's very challenging, and it must be a burden. They must see it as a burden, and it must actually be a burden as well on one level. Because I'm not sure where the love level kicks in. Do they see them as lovable? Do they see the burden that big that they can't love them? I don't fully understand. I can't pretend to. But
on the positive note, there are many, many Christian organisations here in Bethlehem caring for the children and youth.
There's some absolutely wonderful ministries. I think this is a good ministry. Don't get me wrong, it's got its challenges. There's things I'd like to see change. But the heart of the ministry is to help disabled, challenged children. And as I go around Bethlehem now, I see many, many people working away, trying just the best they can to help underprivileged children, disabled children, whatever the words are. There's some wonderful ministries in Bethlehem. And I see many of them also trying to reach them spiritually, not just healing of the physical, but healing of the spiritual condition, to share the gospel with them. And to me, that's also important. So, yeah, I'm very encouraged by what I see.
Now, I imagine that finances aren't much of a problem in the UK, but here, working on a tight budget in the Palestinian area, it must be difficult, especially if you're getting little or no budget from the government.
That's right. Because my wife works in this kind of environment at home, I see how much money is funded for each child. It may be one-on-one care. On some cases, it's 2 to 1 child, and there's abundant money to meet their needs. When you come out here, if you come to a home that is actually financially struggling, day-to-day money issues keep coming up, like the van might break down, or a big bill may come in. And so any money that comes in, I see the balancing out, which do we pay? And that affects the money that drips down to childcare with facilities for the school, and even to the level of food. do we get the cheapest food that will fill their stomachs, or do we get the tastiest food that they'll really enjoy? And then that challenge and that balance, to be honest, I wouldn't like to have to make it in a home, but the less money that comes in, it's finding where you distribute the money, where you consider to be the important thing. And very challenging, very challenging.
Are you seeing God move among the children and youth?
I think I am. We've started morning devotions. Sorry, the morning devotions already went on. I know yourself come in on a Wednesday, and I love to see that. I love to see the children love you, and I see their response when you walk through the door and it's Uncle Paul, and they're ready to go. I'm seeing that more every day now. So we share the gospel, Bible stories with the children every day. We've started an evening devotion every night. So we do a similar thing every night before bed. They seem to really enjoy it. But the big thing for me is I go up in the mornings and help the children get ready. And we have a question time, a question of the day. And some of the questions they ask are incredible. And they put you on the spot. Like, what is love? Is it wrong to pray for healing? And you're looking at a blind child who's always got issues. And he's saying to me, is it right for me to ask for healing? And these are big questions. And so for them to have them questions tells me that God's doing something in their lives that is, to me, can only be a move of the Spirit, because what I do, what anybody else does, is okay on one level. But if God is not in that, things won't happen. And a big thing for me is that how do you reach a child who you don't know what the mental age is? How do you, when there's other elder children who've got a different mental age, different disabilities, different cultures, I say stick to the truth of the Bible. And God can use the truth of the Bible, and the Spirit will bless the truth of the Bible, and that gives me encouragement. But my answer would be yes. I think I am seeing a change in the children.
Do you feel like you're making a difference here?
I don't know specifically I'm making a difference. We're ploughing away in God's work, and we're ploughing a trough that we're told to go lie down. It's encouraging to get feedback, and so some of the feedback is that yes, they're grateful for what's being done. There's a godly lady here called Miss Violet. I love her. She knows the Lord. She loves the Lord. And though we don't do it for encouragement for ourselves, it's wonderful to get a little bit. Yeah. And she gives feedback saying that she loves the way it's going. So I don't say me, obviously. You try and be too Christian and cliche at sometimes, but it's wonderful to receive some good feedback. And yeah, I've had some good feedback, and long may it be.
Yeah. What's your prayer finally for the children and the youth here?
My prayer for all the children has got to be, because I see the importance of salvation, is for them to come to an understanding of where they are with God, to get right with God, to understand the gospel, and to respond to the gospel. That really is my one true passion. That's why I came out here. It was to help in any way I could, but my one true passion was to share the gospel with these people and to try and feed the truth into their lives and then see what God does with that by His Spirit. My passion is for them to come to salvation, to come to know Jesus as their personal Lord and Saviour. But it's also a passion to see their daily lives improve, to see the conditions improve, to see them happy in the home. So it's a wide prayer, but it is for them to come to salvation, to know the Lord personally, and to get right with Him.
Have some actually responded to that?
They have. We have a time in our evening devotions, and I always try to explain this to them. Don't say things to me. Don't say things to each other. Do you believe what you're saying? Because we have a saying, and it's God said it, Jesus did it, I believe it, and that settles it. And it's a big thing to say. And before we always say it, we say God said it because it's in the Bible. Jesus did it because we know He did it, and it's written in the Bible. I personally believe it. And whatever anybody else says to me, I don't care, because that settles it. And I try to, and they love to say it, they love to respond. Do they understand what I'm saying? I don't know, but I've heard testimonies before from people, and you don't know if that's God's business, that's His business. And they say it, they're saying it to the Lord. God said it, Jesus did it, I believe it, and that settles it.
Okay, Martin, well, thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you very much. It's been a privilege, and it's also been a real privilege to meet you and to spend a little bit of time with you. So I thank you personally as well.